All right, here we go. All right, welcome everybody to the RenoFam podcast. My name is Joey, and this podcast is designed to help equip parents to be the spiritual leaders of their home. This podcast comes with a disclaimer: I am no expert.
Yes.
But I do want to get better, and you probably feel the same way. So let's learn together. The RenoFam podcast is a ministry of Renovation Church in Hampstead, North Carolina. Today on the RenoFam podcast, we have Chris Sasser. Chris is the family pastor at Port City Community Church in Wilmington. He has served in full-time ministry since 1993, working with children, middle school, high school, college, and parent ministries. He has a passion for equipping and encouraging parents and leaders to help the next generation walk with God. Chris shares thoughts and ideas at www.equipанdencourage.com. I was on your site. Tons of great stuff for parents on that site.
Thanks.
So I want to get there one day. I want to have a site with stuff like that on there.
Yeah, you can do it, Joey.
It's awesome. And loves to share with students, leaders, parents. Chris is married to Karen, and they have two children, CJ and Kylie. And a graduate
Can I correct you?
Oh, yes, please.
Karen. K. It's like car.
Okay, yep.
In the garage. That's the way she
K-A-R-I-N.
Karen. You're not, believe me, you're not the first to
all
get
right.
that wrong. That's okay.
Everybody on the podcast is Chris Sasser and Karen. Thank you for correcting me on that.
Yeah, no, I hate correcting people, but it's my wife.
You know, I did seminary online, and a lot of times, like old theologian names, I get wrong because I don't hear professors say them.
Well, it's funny. I would put my wife in the not old. Can't say that.
No.
But she's in the theologian category. Oh yeah, we'll do that.
You see that name and you just go for it.
It's absolutely.
So Karen. Chris is married to Karen. They have two children, CJ and Kylie. Graduate of UNC Chapel Hill.
Tar
Heels.
Yes.
Chris is an avid sports fan and really loves the Heels. As a matter of fact, so you've been to 7 NCAA basketball Final Four games?
That is Final Fours. Yes.
Final Fours.
7 Final Fours.
You were at the Stanley Cup for the Hurricanes win.
I was. Game 7.
And the Masters and 2 U.S. golf tournaments?
I've been 2 U.S. Opens, been in the Masters, been to the Rose Bowl twice, been to Fiesta Bowl and a bunch of other bowls. And
Come on.
I just love being in that environment.
Yeah.
I really do.
That's so cool. You have a bunch of T-shirts, don't you?
Oh, my gosh. It's crazy.
Every game. You got to go.
It's crazy.
How was the Stanley Cup?
Oh,
How was that?
So the Stanley Cup Final was amazing. I remember we were actually at the beach with our extended family kind of as the Hurricanes were kind of on this Stanley Cup run, and I was kind of online trying to find tickets, and finally me and my brother, he was there, found some standing room only tickets for Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final in Raleigh at RBC Center, and we bought those tickets, and I it's one of my favorite sporting events ever because the crowd stood up and cheered the whole time. I hate going to sporting events that the arena is half full or the stadium's half full because it's just where's the excitement?
Sure, yeah.
But man, this place was packed, and the whole game, 3+ hours, everybody just standing up going crazy. It was awesome, and then of course they won the cup. Yeah, so,
big one. I remember that when I was
good.
watching it. I had never been to a hockey game though in person until I was in college. And so I had this friend of mine, and what we would do is we would get done with classes at UNCW, and we would get in his car, and his car was super fast. And he would just hit it hard from Wilmington all the way up there for the game. And I remember this one time, we were just cooking the left-hand lane, just cruising up Interstate 40. And we're going so fast, you can't tell, what the cars are as you're approaching them. We're zipping by.
I think I see it coming, Joe.
And I'm in the passenger seat. I'm looking for it, and I'm like, hey, man, that looks like and then blue lights. And we were like, oh, no. Slow down, way down. And the guy was he was super cool. That was the warning, you idiots.
Yeah, right.
And
exactly.
it was so we just got over, and then he got off at a ramp, and we kept on. But it was,
gosh.
I remember as soon as I was like, hey, man, I think that's a boom.
Had to get to the game, right?
We had to. That was the thing, because our classes went late. So we had a small margin of time to get there, get seats, get snacks, and it was all timed out. And
that's awesome.
But it was a lot of fun. And being in a hockey game is totally different.
It's different than what you think it is.
Absolutely.
It is super fun.
So much fun.
For sure. Yeah, they do a good job up there.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, hey, man, thanks for being on the podcast with me. And thanks for when, I was starting out and trying to figure out what this whole family ministry thing was, the time that you gave me.
No problem.
Sitting down across the table, a little make your own pasta place there in Mayfair.
Absolutely.
Is that place still
I think
there?
it is still there, yeah.
What's it called?
It was no, it's called Positano. It is actually not there anymore.
Oh, okay.
Positano's
Man,
gone.
that place was good.
It was so good.
That was your recommendation. That was a
man,
great
I went there all the time. I
recommendation.
don't know why they shut down.
Man, I know.
Yeah.
That's sad.
Hey, one thing I was really glad that you said at the very beginning is that you're not an expert when it comes to parenting, because I heard, I think, this at one point, and then I started saying it myself. Anyone who claims to be a parenting expert, turn and run.
Turn and run.
Away from them.
Yes.
Because none of us know what we're doing when it comes to kind of raising our kids and really leading our families. We're all learning.
And kids are always changing. The culture
gosh.
certainly always changing.
Absolutely.
And but you have been a huge help to me trying to figure out, get my feet into this family ministry thing. Thanks. And so I appreciate you, man. Thanks for your time.
Thanks. It's always fun to hang out, for sure.
Yeah, man. And I heard you're a huge Pepsi fan. So we did
True statement.
Yes, we got you a Pepsi, so there
Thank
you go. Yep.
Well, can I tell you one more quick story?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm so much of a Pepsi fan. It's been like for years. So at our wedding, when we got married, we just celebrated 19 years. As my friends came down the aisle as kind of the groomsmen, they all were giving me different things, kind of to represent my past. I got a bag of Doritos. I got some sunflower seeds. I got a golf ball. And one of them handed me a Pepsi. And one of my great regrets to this day that I didn't open it up.
Yeah.
Standing there, waiting for my wife to come down and not just
take a sip. So take that sip now. There you go.
I so wish I would have done that. And she would have been fine with it.
Yeah, and the photographer would have been
great.
Up.
So
that
anyway,
would have been
I'm a Pepsi
But you
guy.
know, like when you got married and when I got married, even like people didn't do funny stuff.
No.
Like the wedding was super traditional.
That's right.
You had like now
You're
everybody
not coming
has
like dancing in or anything.
Yeah.
Right.
Like
Sure.
everybody has fun now.
That's
and
right.
like we were like, hey, be on your best behavior. Don't kiss too long to make everybody awkward. Like there was this list of established things you couldn't do. But now they seem to relax and have a lot more fun.
That's right.
So.
We were having fun. That's for sure.
That's good. That's awesome.
Yep.
Very cool. Well, hey, so just talk to me a little bit. We want to get to know you. Tell us a little bit about your family, and then how did you get into this family ministry world and serving at Port City and everywhere else?
So married to Karin, as I said, we've been married 19 years, and we knew each other in high school. We were kind of a part of the same high school circle, but she was on one side and I was on the other, and she was a year older than me, is a year older than me. And so we kind of knew each other through really FCA, the Fellowship of Christian Athletes, but didn't hang out a lot in high school. We both went to Carolina College, same exact thing happened, kind of a part of the same circle, but kind of it was a big circle, so on different sides of the circle. We knew of each other, but didn't really spend a lot of time. And then I got hired to work as a youth intern. I was a 1-year intern at St. Andrew's Presbyterian Church in Raleigh, North Carolina, where they were going to check me out and I was going to check them out. I ended up being there at St. Andrew's and kind of in that environment, which I'll tell you about in a minute, for 19 years.
Okay. Wow.
So I was more than a 1-year intern. Sure. And I just knew God was calling me into some kind of a ministry with students primarily at that point. So the church kind of kept growing, and over the course of a couple of years, we needed someone. I was overseeing middle school and high school. We needed someone to kind of focus on middle school. Karin was working as a counselor at a school. She had her master's in counseling, so she was at a high school not too far away. And one of her absolute best friends and one of my absolute best friends are married.
Okay.
And when it was time to hire somebody, they just knew Karin was the one.
Okay.
And so she interviewed, and she ended up working at St. Andrews for a couple of years before we dated.
Okay.
She was kind of dating someone else. I was just sort of not really dating anybody. And I was scared to ask her out because I had a friend in Kansas City who had a very similar situation where he had begun to date someone who worked with him in their youth ministry. They broke up. And it destroyed the ministry. Yeah. And I kind of watched him walk through this for a couple of years. So I'm like, I'm not doing that.
Yeah, no.
Not doing that. Anyway, finally one day, I'll never forget, I was on a mission trip in Jamaica with our high school students. And Cheryl Cattell, one of our leaders, Cheryl and I were on our way to the grocery store. And Cheryl said, Seth, what are you waiting for?
Right.
We all know it. You know it. She knows it. She's right there. What are you waiting on? And I agreed. Came home, asked Karin to go on a date, and I think a year and a half later or something, we were married. So
there you go.
Anyway, we have CJ.
That's
he
cool.
is a junior at Hoggard High School in Wilmington, 16, soon to be 17. We have Kylie, who is a freshman at Hoggard.
Okay.
And she's 14, soon to be 15, and they're both great kids and into sports and serve at our church, and they're just fun to be around in a lot of ways. So that's our family. And
awesome.
so I started at St. Andrews. I was a 1-year intern. Ended up being at St. Andrews for another 7 years, kind of morphed into doing middle school, high school. We hired Karin. The church was growing. The church had a little bit of a split, I guess you will, where the church basically left the Presbyterian church and we started Grace Community Church.
Okay.
in Raleigh. And so it's essentially the same community. A bunch of people just sort of left the denomination, started Grace, and was at Grace for another 12 years.
Okay.
And I kind of morphed into the family ministry pastor there.
Gotcha.
Where I was still primarily focusing on middle school, high school, a little bit of college students. I'd say maybe 6 or 7 years into kind of that, they asked me to oversee the entire family ministry at a time when I don't think there were a whole lot of people doing family ministry.
Yeah, and if they did, they only did like Upward basketball and church events,
exactly.
right?
Yeah,
there was no discipleship.
No.
You were the rec pastor.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And so I was kind of on the fly trying to learn how to be a family ministry pastor while we were having a family and, beginning to have our kids. And at some point in there, I just knew I really wanted to shift a focus towards parents because I do believe that we as parents are called to be the primary spiritual leaders of our kids. Now, I'm not always good at that,
right? Yeah,
quite honestly. Yeah. And so, but I just knew that as the church, we needed to focus on that. And then in 2012, I got connected with Port City in Wilmington through some consulting that I was doing. And after kind of being here, doing some consulting things for us, they kind of called and said, hey, like, what about come to the beach and move here? And we were at a time in our life where it was time to move. We never thought we would leave Raleigh. All of our extended families in Raleigh. We love Raleigh. It's still home in a lot of ways, but we just knew God was moving us. So I've been at Port City since 2000. I started beginning of 2013.
Okay.
As the student ministry pastor. So really just overseeing high school, college, and middle school. And then a couple years in, they asked me to do the same thing that I did at Grace to kind of become the family ministry guy or pastor. So been doing that. It's probably been 4 years now, maybe 5 years. Yeah. I've been overseeing the whole family ministry.
Well, that's great. And I know you've provided some incredible leadership over there, and you got a great team over there.
Such a great team.
Such an awesome team.
So many great people.
And great Wilmington people, people that I've known for a long time. And,
that's right.
And love hanging out with them and doing things together. And it's awesome. Yeah. Awesome. So you've got a ton of experience in youth ministry. So I usually ask guys that have youth ministry, what's your craziest youth ministry story, or at least the one you can share?
Well, do you want like, I have a little bit of a like cringy crazy. They're not like cringy in a bad way for me. But
right. Yeah. I mean,
is that okay?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So part of our missions philosophy at our church in Raleigh was we were going to kind of go to the same place over and over again for years and years and years. And so we had a relationship with a colonia, a little village in Mexico. So we went to Mexico every year. I went for 17 years for multiple weeks over the course of the year, got to know the people there, families there, all that kind of stuff. Part of what we would do is we'd go in and we'd do a lot of construction. So it's a lot of really hard work. This was high school juniors and seniors primarily. A lot of hard work. We did vacation Bible school. We played soccer with the kids. Kind of a all-encompassing mission experience that was really great, I think. Midweek, like it was always, 112 degrees when you're out working. So it's hot and kids are really, they've worked hard all week. Midweek, we would always go to a little town in Mexico or in Texas. We were right on the border where we were doing the work. So kind of Wednesday afternoon, we'd load everybody up, say, hey, just, grab your swimsuit, grab, a towel and come on, let's go. We just put them in the car. We'd go surprise them, supposedly. But a lot of their siblings had done it before, so they kind of knew. They knew. Yeah. Anyway, we drive about 30 minutes to this little town called Rio Grande City, Texas. And in Rio Grande City, it's literally like just one like a stretch and a couple of stoplights, but it had a hotel, and we would rent 2 rooms in the hotel because it had a pool. We just wanted to use the pool.
Okay, right.
And so it's just jump in the pool and you cool off and have a good afternoon. We'd then go to Walmart. Big deal to go to Walmart to be able to get another toothbrush or whatever you needed, right?
Sure.
And there was a Pizza Hut there. So that was always the deal. You'd go to the pool, we'd swim for an hour or two, everybody take showers in the 2 hotel rooms that we rented, then we'd all go to eat, and then we'd come back.
Yeah, there's a lot of wins. Kids get showers.
Great night. It's a great deal.
Yeah, that's great.
One year, we go to the hotel in Rio Grande City, and we start swimming for about 15 minutes. We're swimming, and it's a typical hotel pool, so shallow end into pretty deep end, and this deep end was pretty deep. Yeah, and one of our students comes over to me and says, "Hey, like, there's something at the bottom of the pool."
Oh no!
Yeah, there was a dead body in the bottom of the pool.
What?
So 2 of our students who are lifeguards say, oh my God, that's a person down there. So they swim down to the bottom of the pool and they pull this guy up and get him on the side. Yeah, I see your face. It happened. They get him on the side, and he's gone. And what had happened was he was a part of like a construction crew or something of a bunch of guys who just were using that on the way, and they'd been drinking. And he just one of his buddies finally came over and like, hey, where's Jim? And is this Jim? And you know, ambulance and all that stuff shows up.
Whoa.
And he had been drinking and just sort of slid down into the bottom of the pool, and we had been swimming there for about 15, 20 minutes.
Oh,
needless to say that particular event was over. We all got out of the pool.
Yeah.
And everybody went and took showers, and we went and had pizza. But that was relatively crazy.
Dude, it's going to take a while.
Is that a winner? Is that a winner? Winner.
And the memories from that, you know, it's like, yeah, like those kids are never going to
Colin Cattell and
story.
Adam Hess pulled him out. Those two kids.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Man. Holy smokes. That's a
winner.
Chris Sasser, first place award.
Woo,
yeah.
I'll take it.
Yeah. So, son, how was your trip? You know, it was good till that one guy in the pool. But other than that, man.
Luckily, that was before Instagram, because some of those kids might have done it.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Hey, Mom, look how our trip's going.
Selfie.
That's all you need. Oh, that's a disaster. Oh, my God. Yeah, because parents are already like on pins and needles when you take their kid anywhere, let alone in another country.
Correct. Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
But what we always used to say about Mexico is I'm never more than 15 minutes from a Walmart. That would help parents.
Yeah.
Because we were literally, go across the Rio Grande River, and we were in the there. We were there, yeah.
That's awesome.
So anyway,
was that your last time going? Or did you
no,
go back? You guys went back?
No. Yeah. That was like in the middle of the 17-year run.
Yeah.
So we went back to that pool the next year. The 7 other times I went to that pool, I always went out and looked in first. That is for sure.
Lifeguard Chris Sasser, ladies and gentlemen. Checking out before we get in. Oh, man. Oh, goodness gracious.
Cringy, I told you.
Yeah, that's a good one there. So, all right. You've been in youth ministry for a while. I'm not going to try to age you or anything here, but you've been in it for long enough that you've seen teenage culture change.
Yeah,
you're still in it. You're still involved with teenagers on a weekly basis.
Yes,
I mean you are. So, what are some things that you would say like this is how you've seen teenage culture change since you started in I guess '93?
Yeah, I think probably the main thing is that teenagers that they are experiencing things and they're exposed to things at a far earlier age than they ever have been. And certainly that's accelerated in the last even 10 years with phones and social media and all that. So back even in 93 or up to 2000, kids weren't exposed to some things until they got to late high school or college. And their mind was in a different place to be able to process what it was. And now, as we know, kids are exposed to things at age 10 or 12 because of the device they have, and they weren't looking for it, and it's pushed to them or sent to them or their friend has it. Like I just remember our son, and I think we'll talk about this later. He didn't have a cell phone. He at one point had a friend. I think CJ was probably in 6th grade, and our next door neighbor was in 2nd grade. And I just remember they'd be out playing basketball in the driveway, and all of a sudden I seen them huddled around the 2nd grader's iPhone 10 looking at something. And so like kids are just exposed to things at an earlier age, and they're not more mature. Right. They're just not emotionally and mentally developed enough to be able to deal with the things that they're exposed to. And sometimes as parents, we don't even know they're exposed to those things. And so that's where I think I've seen the biggest change is sort of the exposure to things at an earlier age and the inability to be able to process it and the immaturity to be able to deal with it. And in some ways, we as parents are kind of lost in how to step into that because at times we don't even know. So that's one of the biggest changes I've seen. And I feel like kids are partially because of that, kids are able to diverge from what their parents believe at an earlier age than maybe they were back then. And again, it's because they see things, they're exposed to things, they're made aware of things at a much earlier age. And so all of a sudden, instead of, running into that philosophy or that idea at age 18 that you kind of can think through and maybe even talk to, and hey, do y'all believe this as parents, or what do we, or they just know as parents where you stand on something? Again, they can diverge from that quicker. I was even having a conversation with a dad last night who his daughters kind of are in and around a group of other girls who are thinking through something, and she's 12, and he's like, what in the world? And he sees her taking a right turn, going away from what they as a family believe that is something that, you or I wouldn't have experienced until we're in our 20s.
Right.
And so it's just, it's an opportunity to diverge quicker.
Yeah, that's so good. That is true. And it's one of those things too, like, and I'm really glad you said they're not mature enough, because what you'll hear people who don't know what they're talking about say is teenagers today are so much more mature.
No,
they're not. They're just
not.
Dressing more mature. They're acting. They have this faux maturity about them, but they're not. They're the same.
Yeah, in some ways they're like I was in high school.
Yes, that we were, but
Absolutely.
they just are carrying the weight of a mature expectation.
That's right.
It's almost like a jacket they can't fit in.
100%.
I mean, and I've just seen this, and it's a pressure thing. Like, it's just, I have to present myself this way.
Absolutely. And they crumble under the pressure. And sometimes that's external, sometimes it's internal, sometimes it comes out, sometimes it doesn't. And in some ways, I was talking about this with a staff member at our church the other day. In some ways, they don't know how to kind of develop a grit to fight through it. You're more able to do that when you're older and see a bigger picture and be able to understand. But when you're 10, 11, 12, 13 and you're hit with something and it sort of crushes you, you don't have the emotional maturity to fight through it and learn how to deal with it. And so,
I saw this, like, and I didn't catch on to it because when you're in it sometimes, like in the culture that we're in, you don't recognize it. But my daughter years ago, she was doing, I believe it was her like kindergarten. No, it was her first grade talent show, I think. Right. And so like she's learning how to play piano in the first grade. We doing some piano lessons with her. So she wanted to do Mary Had a Little Lamb. So we dressed her up as a little farm girl, and I mean, first grade, just adorable, right? Cute. Little straw hat.
Oh yeah.
Her keyboard gets put out there and it has a little lamb on it, and she plays Mary Has a Little Lamb. When she gets done, she presses a button on the keyboard and a beat starts, and she just does it again over the beat. Well, I brought my aunt and uncle with us to watch this. When we got done, my aunt and uncle was like, "Well, why didn't any of the other kids have talents that kids would do?" And then I went back and I thought, and it was like every other kid was doing like the pop song of the day or the simulated dance routine that you would typically see a college or older type person do. And the entire thing was like, and I didn't even realize, I'm like, yeah, that was not a kid's talent show. That was a kid's trying to be adult talent show.
Yeah, the adult world has been brought down to their level more and more.
Yeah.
And they either have to step into it or get left behind. And so there's that pressure kind of with them to step into it, but they're not ready to step into it.
Yeah.
But yet they do.
Yeah. Man.
Because they have to.
Yeah. So I want to dive into that a little bit more. We're going to skip down to another question that I had for you, but talking about your son.
Yeah.
Because you shared this story with me and I was like, how did you do it? You know, like you did this, like you actually did this. And I want you to share about your son and the cell phone and then the principles that you share with me that I've never forgotten.
Yeah. Well, the main thing is we waited as long as possible to give our son a cell phone. And partially because I was thinking through this space of how when they get that little computer in their hands, how they just go into a different world. And so we just decided that we weren't going to let him have a cell phone until he was, I think it was 15 is when we finally gave it to him, which, is unheard of in this culture.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And we just made the decision and we told him, hey, this is just what we're going to do. You're not going to get it until then. And then we'll have a conversation about it. And because I think we told him that at an early age, it wasn't really a conversation in our house. It wasn't like, hey, we think we'll give it to you at some point. We'll talk about it later. We don't know when. We just kind of put a
you set the boundary.
We did. We set a boundary and we stuck to it. And I think it hopefully it helped him not get reeled into a lot of things, especially kind of the drama that can exist with social media. He's a guy, so he's not really into social media, but he does want to connect with his friends. And so there were probably a year or two where he just didn't get to connect with as many people as maybe, but that's okay.
Right. Yeah.
Because the friends that he wanted to connect with and the friends we wanted him to connect with, a lot of folks at church, he could still connect with them, through, seeing them, talking to them in places. And he plays sports, so he was connected to a lot of those guys. But we just put the boundary out there and said, we're not doing it. Yeah. And it's funny. And we told him, because our daughter's 2 years behind him, we told him, hey, we may not treat her the same way. We may treat her a little bit differently. We may kind of have a different boundary for her, which we did.
Yeah.
We had a little bit of a younger boundary for her. Part of it was because we felt like she would handle it differently than he would.
Yeah, sure.
And so we told him both of those things, and so he didn't fight us to try to get it way too early. He was fine when she got hers at an earlier age, because you can't treat all your kids the same way.
Sure.
Most of the time. And now he's still reeled into things now that he hasn't
right,
that we have to talk about every day. But
sure.
I think we protected him from that for a number of years, and that was just really kind of important to us.
Yeah, and here's a big win. Like your son, this is like, to me, I'm like, I can't imagine if I had a phone like that in middle school. Like when I go back and look at like where would this have gotten difficult?
Yeah,
middle schoolers with all the power in their hand to see anything they want, do anything they want.
I don't want to.
Your son made it through middle school and didn't have to worry about that.
And he's fine. That's right. And that's what we.
He's fine.
That's
right?
what we as parents need to I think understand on a lot of levels is the things that our kids think are going to be catastrophic are just going to be fine.
Right?
Yes, it's not catastrophic if your middle school child doesn't have a cell phone. And the other thing that I think I have to fight at times is sometimes I will quote unquote give in to my kids, or I will provide something for them because it makes life easier for me.
Yeah.
And I think as a parent, I have to check that all the time, because if I'm going to kind of let them step into something because it makes life easier for me, then I think I need to kind of think about that. I mean, if I have to wait in the parking lot an extra 6 minutes because practice ran late, I mean, I know like a lot of parents, he needs to have the phone so he can text me when practice is over and I'll come get him. If I have to sit there for a while, that's okay.
Right. Yeah. Sure.
I mean, as parents, we have to work in different ways, and that goes to part of what I think we have to do as parents, and it's the question that you asked is I think we have to kind of protect their innocence as long as we can. Yeah, and we tried to do that with our kids, and at some point you can't protect it because they step into it, but if you can protect it to a point where they step into it when they're older and more mature and ready to deal with things, that's so important. And then the other thing is, I just want our kids to have an understanding of the faith in Jesus. Yeah. I want them to say yes to Jesus and to follow him. And I think as parents, we often get caught into the I guess it's the lie or the, I don't even know what the right word is, but we feel like our kids have to get, great grades so that they can, get in the right school, so that they can, get in the right profession, so that they can make enough money and marry the right person and blah, 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 all the way down the road. Yeah, it's that path, right? It's the American dream-ish kind of path where, they end up as young adults successful, whatever the heck that means. Sure, right. And I just a couple of years ago, in doing a lot of kind of research and talking to really young adults and college students, said, I don't care about that. What I care about is I want my kids, when they get to be in their 20s, to be spiritually, relationally, and emotionally healthy. If we can get them to their 20s where they're spiritually, relationally, and emotionally healthy, and we have a good relationship with them as parents, that's the target for me. Yeah. All of the other stuff will happen or not happen, and I've just got to trust God that he knows where he's leading them on a career path and a family path and all that kind of stuff. But I don't want for my kids to get to their mid-20s and have a great job and a lot of money and live in a great city and get a lot of experiences and just be spiritually ruined or emotionally a wreck or relationally unhealthy. That just feels like a place I don't want to be. Yeah, with my kids. Yeah. And so, in
a lifelong adulthood of struggle. From that point. Because if you don't get those things right, that's decades to follow of issues.
And there's so much kind of emotional baggage that comes with not getting all of that stuff right. That will come out at age 30, 40, 50, and 60.
Yeah, sure. and in that, and I'm so glad you said that. It's about getting the perfect grades, about making sure you're in line with the right college. I mean, like that to me, the more that I'm reading, researching, seeing, talking with college students. I mean, I had a conversation with a college student last week, and he decided, college isn't for me right now. And I was like, the best decision you probably will make this year. That's right. Is not to waste your time and your parents' money and doing this college thing when you're just not ready. That's right. There's other alternatives out there, especially now.
Well, and I think that's the other thing that has fundamentally changed in ministry for me, kind of in dealing with middle school and particularly high school students since '93, is that was the expected path, and it was kind of the only ish. If you didn't go to college, you didn't go to the military, what were you going to do?
Right.
And now there's just so many options and so many paths and so many different things that kind of kids and young adults can go do. And so it's just as parents, sometimes we have to step out of that type of thinking and thinking that's the only route they can go, and because I think we get a little bit uptight around that. And
it's a trusting God issue in a big way. I mean, we are supposed to set our kids up, right? We don't want our kids failing out of school. No, not at all. But at the same time, it's like, if they don't go to the college of my choice, God's got this. I mean, it's that. But for us, it's like, these all things have to get checked.
Well, and just to be completely honest, my wife and I are right in the middle of that right now with our son. He's 16. He's a junior. Pandemic schooling has not done well for him. I mean, he was literally the straight A kid and kind of everything before then. He has struggled a lot in doing school from home, and it's caused relational strife. And we've had to kind of navigate this value of relationship over, choosing the right path or getting him on the right path or performance. We've had to navigate that for the last year, including this morning. And some more conversations, right?
Sure.
But he because of what's happened in his grades over the last year, he's eliminated some opportunities that he wanted for college. And we've been telling him that for a year.
Sure. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
He knows that all of a sudden, where he maybe wanted to go to school or what he wanted to do may not be an option right now. And we have to be okay with that.
Yeah. Right.
And it's hard, but we have to be okay with that. And something I heard years ago too is, when your kids are going to fail at something big like that. I think Tom Shefchinas from Orange said this in a seminar he came and did for us. You want them to fail under your roof first. Like the first time they have these big fails, you want it to be under your roof, because then you can help guide them through it. And we have a couple things with our son that's been the case over the last number of months. And so I'm glad he's kind of going through these things now instead of 2 years from now when he's out on his own and he's maybe doesn't want to call mom or dad, or he's a little embarrassed. He doesn't know what to do, and it sort of goes down a different trail. We get to help him navigate that now to hopefully set him up for whatever's God's got for him in the future. But the future that he now has is different than the one we hoped he was going to have 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And we have to somehow be okay with that.
Yeah. But and a big part of this is your conversations that you're having now.
Yeah.
I mean, because if you do this under your roof and you do it correctly, your son is going to fail again.
Oh, yeah.
And you want to be the first phone call.
That's right.
Yeah, there may be distance, he may be somewhere else, but you want how you handle this now
absolutely
is going to determine how he processes and works through it later.
100%. The voice, the way we handle this now determines whether or not we get a voice in it in the future. That's
so true.
Well, it's true, but I hope we get a voice in the future because it's still an everyday battle, right?
Well, you're not a perfect parent, Chris Sasser.
I mean
but and it just sounds like, and I know this is just something maybe we can talk a little bit about, but just talk about the value of sitting down and having conversation with your son or with your daughter, with your children. I mean, because I think a lot of families are missing that piece of it. Because we're just going from thing to thing, and then and it's like, okay, sometimes we've got to stop, break something down that we see in the life of our kid, and have that conversation with them. What does that look like for you as a parent? Just having those conversations with your kids.
Well, I think for us, it's not often a sit down 30-minute conversation because you just can't get that out of them.
Right.
Even at 16 and 14, it is a 3 minutes here to sort of talk about it. It's he'll come in and lay on the bed and we'll kind of talk for a few minutes and try to set the stage, and then it's 4 minutes tomorrow, and then it's another 3 minutes here. It's more of an ongoing conversation than it is a single conversation.
Yeah.
Because oftentimes in the single conversation, they lose interest real quickly.
Sure.
Because they realize,
and I'm out.
You're coming at him, and I'm out. He's going to snuggle with the dog instead of look at us is what he's going to do. And so it's more, in my opinion, an ongoing conversation that I think strengthens the relationship. Right. Yeah. Because when you just sort of swoop in and have the family meeting conversation on a big issue, once a month or whenever you need to do it, that feels more like you're just sort of, you're not as close as you can be. And so I think I haven't thought through a philosophy on it, but now I'm talking to you about it. That's what we do. When we have ongoing conversations with our kids about things, just to try to plant the seeds.
Yeah.
And I'm always reinforcing the thing I said yesterday.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
Yes.
Hey, if you don't get these assignments done, you realize you're going to eliminate some more opportunities in the future. Yeah, Dad, I realize it. Okay, I just want to make sure you realize it. And then the next day, hey, you didn't get them done. Like you realize.
Yeah, you're making awareness.
Yeah, it's just it's a nonstop awareness that teenagers don't believe. Right?
Sure, right. Yeah.
And I didn't believe my parents when they said things.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
And so you have to get over the pride of, I know what's best for you right now. But you don't know that.
Right. Yeah.
But I don't think I can convince you of that. I just need to kind of keep trickling and keep trickling and keep trickling.
Yeah.
So it's more of an ongoing conversation than a sit down. And we're pretty good about sitting down for dinner. That's one of the things that the pandemic has done is we've been at dinner a lot together.
Yeah.
And that's been great and had, just kind of some good interactions and conversations. And one more thing I'll say too. So just this past Sunday at church, our pastor in the series that we're doing, a phrase he said was, hey, God doesn't want more from you. Like God's not demanding more from you. He wants more for you in your life. And I was able, and CJ was sitting right next to us in church. And so I was able to later on that night say, hey man, like I know we've been having a lot of conversations about school and you and your future and what we're doing. And when Mike said this about, God doesn't want more from you and wants more for you, that applies with me and Mom and all of these conversations that we're having with you.
Yeah. Yeah,
we don't want more from you. We want more for you. And I think that's an important thing to let our kids know, because oftentimes in our demands of our kids of, clean your room or do these chores or get your grades done or, be better at the sport or whatever, I wonder if they can sometimes feel like, oh, they just want more from me. They want me to perform better.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't ever want my kids to have that lens where they think I need them to perform better because that's going to crush them in the future.
Yeah.
If they develop kind of this performance mentality. I want them to know that I want more for them.
Yeah.
That's my heart.
Oh, that's good.
So I think when I'm having our ongoing conversations with both of our kids, that's what I'm trying to communicate.
Yeah. No, that's great. That's so good. Now let's talk a little bit about you brought up the pandemic. Obviously this has impacted everybody's households. I mean, our family, we made the swap to complete homeschooling. So my wife works, I work, she works part-time, thank goodness.
God bless you.
And so we're doing homeschool like Monday through Thursday, and we're doubling up on the days. I'm kicking it in on Fridays. So I'm usually off on Fridays, a little bit here, a little bit there, so we can get that. I mean, it's working, but it's a total shift for us.
Oh, I'm sure.
And I know that we've done a couple episodes just trying to help parents in this pandemic. But what are some of the things you've seen when it comes to teenagers or families or when it comes to COVID and some of the changes or adjustments and that you're trying to lead through and help people through?
I think obviously we've seen people be more isolated, and in some ways we've been told to isolate, and so we've kind of gotten a pass on having to be social, and I wonder if that's going to linger for a while. I wonder if people, even though we all do crave community and we do crave being in those environments, I do wonder if subconsciously people are kind of gonna isolate more in the future. One of the ways I've heard it said is our tribes have shrunk. Right, we've had to surround ourselves with a smaller number of people. Yeah, and so I wonder if that's going to kind of happen, kind of go forward in the future. And I think when it comes to school specifically, and I don't know if our kids would be in this boat, but I think culturally we're going to be in this boat. I saw something recently, an article where it said, a number of years from now, 3, 5, 10, who knows what it is, there's going to be a reckoning in our culture around what has happened to our kids when it comes to school. With homeschool, it's different than kind of what a lot of kids have been in with the virtual learning. We did this thing at our church where early in the pandemic, we just recognized the difficulty that a lot of parents were having. So we did this thing called the Helping Center, where we just knew, hey, we have space and we have internet. And so let's just open up a couple days a week for parents to be able to bring their kids, elementary school kids, bring their kids to church. We'll get some volunteers. They can connect to the internet. They can do some of their homeschool things here. And just the number of kids that came in that just, first of all, they were asking the kindergartners to go onto the website to read these things to get their work done, and they can't read.
You're right. Yeah, sure. Yeah. Here's your instruction, kindergartner who can't read.
So you got, and so there were all these layers of, volunteers trying to help kids read and get online, and just it was just a mess. And that's what a lot of people are experiencing at home with having to work. And so at some point culturally, there's just going to be this reckoning around what has happened, and nobody knows what that means.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Nobody knows what that looks
Yeah.
like. But I do think that we kids, and particularly maybe teenagers, have just sort of isolated a little bit more. And I wonder how that's going to impact kind of them in the future. And parents are just tired. That's what I hear. I'm sure you hear all the time. Parents are just tired.
Yeah.
And when is this going to be over? And when can we go back to normal? And
especially your single parent.
Oh my gosh.
The single parent right now.
Can't imagine.
I can't imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's a totally different game because you have to work.
That's
Your
right.
kids still had to go to school.
That's
I mean,
right.
the whole, and that reckoning piece, you're absolutely right. I mean, we're going to sit in a few years and go, even just because, you know, you and I are reading a lot of the same stuff. Everything was telling before the pandemic, do what you can to get your kids off screens. Right? I mean, like, get them off the screens, and then as soon as the pandemic hits, everybody's answer is a screen.
Yeah.
And it's like,
yeah.
Wait a second.
And not only have we given them the pass to be on screens, like we've encouraged it, like and that's going to have an impact too, because I don't know that you can reel that back.
Sure.
In kind of a fast sort of way.
Yeah.
I really don't.
Yeah.
So.
A whole new world. A whole new world. Yeah. And I don't know about with you working with teenagers, the conversations that we're having right now is right now within the last few weeks, we're seeing this bubble of teenagers finally coming out and really struggling. You know, they've been able to kind of hang in there and deal with things and whatever, but like we're just starting to see like now our teenagers starting to step out of that darkness a little bit and go, I need some help.
Yeah.
Or I'm really struggling. This has been really tough. I mean, coming up on a year of it. Yeah. You know.
Yep. And I think what we need to do is, those of us who work in family ministry, of course, we need to be postured in such a way to have adults for them to talk to be able to kind of process those struggles. But also we need to encourage parents to step into those conversations, to try to get as close as you can to your kids, as close as they'll let you get. Keep knocking on the door. Keep knocking on the door.
Absolutely.
When they close it, just keep stepping in to be able to be available as a parent to have those conversations with your kids. You know, I heard somebody say the other day that, you know, kind of for millennials, 9/11 was sort of their defining moment.
Yeah, absolutely.
For this culture, for this generation, it's going to be COVID.
Yeah.
Like this is going to be their defining moment. All the issues that are now starting to come out are going to come out for a long time. And we, as the adults around them, need to make sure we're not abandoning them. We're not belittling sort of what it is they've been through.
Right. Absolutely.
Because again, they're not mature enough to be able to process it, and they don't have the grit to be able to fight through it. They do actually need empathy from us. When it comes to what they're dealing with. I mean, our son, he's an athlete, he's, you know, very outgoing, he's got a lot of friends. I mean, he finally did a couple of weeks ago do the same thing. He just finally said, this has just been really hard. Yeah. And I'm not sure you guys understand how hard it's been for us. And he's what I would call a relatively normal kid. And so I think that's happening all over the place. And as parents, as the church, we have to be attentive to that. We have to make sure we're in that fight with them, not against them. Because I think oftentimes they feel like the adults in their life, you know, we're trying to, again, get them to do something.
Yes.
Want something from me. And we got to be able to be in that space with them as they talk about their struggles, to be able to encourage them in the right direction. Yeah, man, that's so good. I mean, there is so much to right now especially with those teenagers, is making sure that they have other adults in their life that they're plugged in with. And I know for parents and our church, it's like, this is why we have a small group leader for your child. Absolutely. Like this is this is the perfect case and scenario. Like this is the study of like and one of the greatest things I hear is that when a kid is struggling, the first person to find out and the first responder was not me. It was not even our student pastor. It was that small group leader. 100% agree. Both of our kids have great small group leaders. And for our son, I'm actually really good friends with this small group leader. I'm in a couple small group with him and his wife. And that's where I want him going. Yeah. I know he's going over to Javi's house. I know they're having conversations. I know they go out to eat. I know they have, all of that. And you're right. I mean, that's why if you're a parent listening and you're a part of a church and your child is not connected to a small group and a small group leader, make it happen. Yeah. Because it makes all of the difference in the world. If our kids didn't have their small group leaders to walk through life with them and to kind of shepherd that group, I'm not sure what I would do. Yeah. It'd be infinitely harder to deal with, because I trust Javi, I trust Nikki, I trust Mary, I trust all the people who are leading our kids in that, and that's where they need to be.
Yeah. I don't know. Have you read the book, The Coddling of the American Mind? Jonathan Haidt's book?
Yeah, it's a couple years old.
It is, yeah.
No, I haven't.
There's a portion in that, the middle portion of that book is really, really good. And the reason that it's really good is he went, I'm talking real deep dive into, now this is pre-COVID, the effects of what's happening with teenagers and kids with devices, online world, like navigating all this stuff. And especially that middle school age, there's a ton of stuff in there. But one of the things that he talks about in that book is especially middle school girls and the struggle that they're having to internalize, with social media and the demands of it. And he really breaks it down. It's fascinating. But then this reckoning that you were mentioning earlier, we've now had probably without a doubt, the highest attentiveness to these very same things
100%
over the last 12 months that we've ever had.
You got it.
So if we already had this very troubling statistics before,
it's going to skyrocket.
It's going to skyrocket.
For sure.
The parents got to be in there, like you said, knocking on that door, having those conversations, listening in.
Well, the other thing I heard years ago about particularly social media when it comes to our kids kind of being on it is, as a parent, you have to be where they are. So think about where your kid is digitally, and you have to be there. Like if they're on TikTok, you better be on TikTok. And it's painful, and it's, it hurts as a parent. I mean, I downloaded Snapchat a couple months ago because that's one of the ways that my son said he wanted to communicate with his friends. He said, nobody texts anymore. Everybody snaps.
Everybody snaps.
Right? And I'm like, well, dang.
So frustrating.
It's so frustrating, but it's true.
It is. So
I downloaded Snapchat. I'm not active on Snapchat. I'm not even, really doing a whole lot, but I need to be aware. I need to kind of know what's going on. So as a parent, be where your kids are so that you at least understand a little bit of kind of what's going on in their world. I mean, and that's a way to be able to be a little closer is to just be aware. You cannot put your head in the sand in this day and age and let your kids just sort of have their phone and do this and do that. And they will go off faster than they've ever been able to go off. So whatever rabbit hole they'll go.
And the hole will be dug for them.
Oh, it'll be like,
we used to get ourselves in trouble, and we did the digging.
Right?
No. No, they're going to get in trouble. Yes, and then it's an elevator shaft, and it's down. Yeah, and I've tried to explain this to parents, like when they talk to me, hey, should I give my very young child a cell phone? And I'm like, okay, let me. This is and there's probably a better the version of this somewhere, but I'm like, this would be you giving your car keys to your child with unlimited gas, okay, and giving them permission to go anywhere they want. So think of any town you want to, in any place in any town, to see anything that this is what you're handing them, right? Like they can go to this club, they can go, like, think of the worst places and think of the best places. But this is what you're doing if you just give your child a phone, and you have to ask yourself the question: Are they
ready
for that?
Yeah, that's right. And like the question I would ask is, why does your child need a phone?
Yeah.
Tell me why they need.
Why do they need it? Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
I mean, it is. I was reading some stuff on where people are trying to put they're in the camp of putting ages on social media. Like legal ages. Like you're 16, you get a driver's license. And I'm like, I'm not a big law person, like let's not add, but sometimes I'm like, that gone, if we had that,
might not be a bad idea.
Yeah, if we had that, you can't own a smartphone until you're in the 9th grade. But anyway, I know it's very anti-American, but it may save the brain of my child.
Yes, which is more important than being American.
Yes, every time.
Right?
Every time. Yes, it is.
Don't want to need to go there.
Yeah, well, we'll keep moving. But here's the last thing I want us to talk about here. And you have a lot of conversations around this, and it's helping parents fight through the noise to help navigate their kids. And what are some things that you could share with parents out there? Hey, here's some way to help cut through the noise that is out there in your kid's life so that you're able to have, because we said the primary spiritual influence is a parent. What are some ways they can do that? How can we help parents Do you have any nuggets for us in that?
Well, I think
area?
I've already mentioned, do your best to stay close to your kids. And one of the ways that I think you can do this is you have to just give them your time. Yeah. And increasingly, because there's so much noise, because there's so much busyness, you have to give them time on their time, not on yours. Like I just specifically remember a couple of years ago, my daughter, hey, Dad, you want to play Crazy Eights? And I had, a couple things. We were home. I had a couple things I needed to do for work and needed to get this done and whatever. And I had a decision to make. She has time. She's asking for mine, which is more important right now. Yeah. And so we have to, I put the computer away and I went and I played Crazy Eights with my daughter for 8 minutes probably,
right,
Crazy Eights for 8, whatever it was. And I think for us as parents, as much as we talk about our kids need to be off of their devices, so do we. Yes. And I think that's probably the best practical advice to be able to help our kids steer away from the noise. We have to steer away from it first. And so, are there ways that we can make sure we're putting all of our devices away? We're putting anything that would take our attention off of our kids and our family, put it away in order to give them that attention. And sometimes that attention may be around a device.
Sure, right, sure.
They have, right? I mean, you just have to be able to read the room on that. But I think we are so often distracted because we like to scroll just as much as they do. We just scroll different things. And so just do everything you can to stay close to your kids, to step into giving them time when they have it. And that's just, it's a different mentality because it used to be, hey, we're getting in the car, we're going to McDonald's now. Yeah, right, sure. And, it's fight, I don't want nuggets, whatever. No, let's you want to just sit and hang out or play a game or whatever, and that's the time you have because you're running between practice and then you got some homework, but you got 8 minutes now. Give them the 8 minutes when they have it. Because lots of accumulations of 8 minutes help to build a relationship. And so I think just find little times in the noise to be able to be relational. Yeah. That's probably my best. Yeah. That's good. My best advice for that. That's good. Chris, and help them, put down the device or help them get away from the noise. Give them some opportunities just to be quiet and have some space. I mean, we still, the rule, quote unquote, is in our house is that your phone goes to bed at 10. Yeah. Yeah. I'm not ever going to let my teenager have their phone in their room overnight. Yeah. It's a recipe for disaster. And so our son's not always great at it. Sometimes it's 10:30 and I will literally, it's funny. I'll be in our bedroom about to fall asleep. He's in his room, and I will text him this phrase: "Phone sleepy time." Phone sleepy time. Phone sleepy time. Yep. Because it's he knows it should have been in there at 10, and I'm not gonna fight that because I'm gonna make him do it, but I'm not gonna 10 o'clock on the dot. I mean, I want the relationship to be strong. I want him to feel the responsibility of doing it, but he needs a reminder. Yeah. Times, it's a boundary. It is. Yeah. It's a boundary that's not a hard boundary. Yeah. Right. Yep. It's a little bit of a soft boundary right now because he's 16 and he has to learn that kind of stuff. But I'm from 10 o'clock ish every night. He's not going to be. Yeah. He's not going to have that going through his brain of scrolling this or texting that or snapping this. He's got to put it away. So we got to give our kids those boundaries on the digital stuff. So sorry. No, that's great. And you made me think, like right now, so my daughter is 9, and she has one of our old phones, okay? Literally, all she can do on it is take pictures and video and listen to the music that I put on there. Perfect. That's it. Like, that's all she does with it. Perfect. But I'm telling you, dude, I'm going to shatter this thing because I'm already so frustrated by that. I have to go get my phone. Like, I'm gonna do it, Chris. Like, I'm gonna call you. I'm gonna text you one day. And I'm gonna show you a shattered phone, and I'm done. Like, no more. I told her that the other day. I was like, if this thing slows you down to getting in the car one more time, it's going into millions of people. Because I'm like, and she's like, why? And and this went totally over her head. I was like, because this is a fight I'm gonna have to fight one day, but I don't want to fight it now because I know like it's just. Oh, I don't even like hearing it right now. I agree. And we are setting the pace for their future life by allowing them to do that now. Yeah. And it's scary. I'm going to shatter it today when I go home. Hey, go for it. I'm going to just shatter it. You're a sports guy, baseball club, golf club, what should I use? Oh, I'll do a baseball bat. Baseball bat for sure. All right, baseball bat will do it. We'll do that. Go Chris Sasser, man, thanks so much for being here. Thanks, Joey. I really appreciate it. Anytime, my friend. Thanks so much. Parents, tons and tons and tons of nuggets in there. So
Hey, if you enjoyed this, put it in the comments below what you loved. Hey, you can find this podcast wherever you can listen to a podcast. It's there and on YouTube, so check it out. Hey, thanks so much for joining us, Chris. Thanks again for being here.
Yes, sir.